We're talking actors and directors who put on the shows.
We're talking playwrights and designers who you'll want to know.
From the very first rehearsal to the final curtain call.
We might be off Broadway, but we're talking about it all.
'Cause we're two local gals
with global pals. It's everything, everything, everything theater.
with Benita
And Ellen. Hello, everyone. We want to let you know that this episode is sponsored by Harbinger Theater. They have a production of Stephen Adly Guirgis' Pulitzer Prize-winning play Between Riverside and Crazy, performing from July 18th to July 27th at Albany Civic Theater. Between Riverside and Crazy tells the story of Walter Pops Washington, an ex-cop and recent widower who, with his recently paroled son Junior, struggled to hold on to one of the last rent-stabilized apartments on Riverside Drive. The old days seem to be dead and gone for the two as old wounds are opened, sketchy new house guests turn up, and a final ultimatum is delivered. There's a free preview on July 17th and talkbacks on the 18th and 25th. Tickets are only $15. And now, back to the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Everything Theater Podcast, the podcast where we talk about
Everything theater. We keep it good and simple that way. Hi, everybody. I'm Benita Zahn.
And I am Ellen Cribbs.
And everything is okay.
Okay, Lahoma.
Darn tootin'. We're talking Oklahoma, which Ellen is and Ella in at the Playhouse Stage Company, Park Playhouse. And it says Chuck and Ashley are our guests. We got it in the right, looking at the screen, it's in the right spot.
Perfect.
But Chuck and Ashley are, yes, they're a couple. They're married. Okay, there, we've outed you. And Chuck is also the director of the show this summer. And Ashley, you did the choreography and what else?
I more assistant directed and assistant choreographed on this.
So I just have to ask, I'm going to be a little, kids. So husband, wife, he's the director, you're assistant directing. So girl, how'd it go?
Oh, it was great. It's our dynamic, I think, works really, really well in a rehearsal room, at least hopefully. I don't know. Ellen can maybe speak
Yes,
to
it does. It's amazing how you two are always like on the same page. You just look at each other and both of you are like, yeah, we're going to do that.
Yeah, he kind of like speaks in like metaphor, and then I translate is kind of the dynamic.
Ashley, for not just on Oklahoma, but all the shows that we've done together. Ashley, I call my great interpreter. She is my translator. I can be like, I don't know, it needs to feel, and I just make the like the weirdest references, and she's like, okay, I got you. And she has the skills to figure out how to get from A to B, and it's kind of miraculous. And it helps because I do my best thinking in the shower. So when I'm at home, I can just bellow out to her when I have a thought, and she'll come running to listen to me prattle on for an hour.
That is real.
Ellen and I have talked about this, I think almost every show, every program we do, we talk about how audiences still want happy. And yes, there's some cutting edge stuff, but even if you look at the auditions for the upcoming seasons around the country, it's mostly happy. And Oklahoma is happy. Yeah, it's got a little dark streak, sure. But it's a throwback to a simpler time. Or was it?
Well, I think one of the things that drew me to the piece initially was that I think it's a bit of a Trojan horse. Something that kind of got my gears spinning early on was this idea of American greatness, right? Which is something we hear about a lot these days in our current political climate, but it is so ingrained in the history of this country now that it's impossible to ignore. So that kind of got me thinking of what is this idea of greatness? What are these myths that we tell ourselves, be it the Cowboys and Lewis and Clark and Westward Expansion? And that kind of plays into Oklahoma for me because I think it's a danger with Oklahoma is to only look at the surface and see the big pretty colors and the big pretty dances and the marvelous, marvelous music. But if you scratch at it just a little bit, there's a lot of room to breathe underneath there. And so that was kind of what drew me to the piece. It was very important to me to kind of strip away all the busyness and the accoutrement and just keep it very focused on character and who these people are and what it meant to exist at that time. And Ellen will attest that I spoke so much during rehearsals about deliberately wanting to paint them all in shades of gray and leave the space within one piece to have plenty of songs that everyone can leave humming and feeling good about. But also, if you want to think a little deeper about what you just saw, there's room for that. So I think that the challenge on it was it was a real balancing act as we kind of worked through that beat to beat, and making sure that Curly's not just the hero in the white hat, and make sure that Judd isn't just the bad guy in the black hat.
I want to jump in about Judd. Judd is the other.
Yeah, very much so. I think that when I looked at the character of Judd, I saw the opportunity cost of American history and this time in American history. I think a lot of people look at Oklahoma as like an old West cowboy musical, and it's not. It's set in 1906. We're just a couple years away from the Model T and machine guns and Prohibition and all of that. So the country is changing at such a rapid pace that there is a panic of expansion. And with expansion and with staking your claim, somebody else gets left out of that, and someone else doesn't get to make that claim. And that was kind of the angle that I took with Judd. Judd is the one who's left behind in the American story.
Which resonates today. Very much so resonates today. And I realized in the beginning, we're always all about transparency, and those who listen in all the time knows that my last life was, I was a reporter. I'm a journalist by heart. I'm the board president of Playhouse Stage Company. So let's just get that out of the way. And, there are people wonder, like, how do you pick your shows? Well, there are a number of shows that come up to be discussed, and they are discussed given the time. There are shows that may eventually get done, but aren't done when they're first proposed. And there are shows that sort of will never do that. And then all of a sudden they get moved to the top of the list. And just a little bit of, inside pool, there was never a question. Once Oklahoma came up for discussion, I think across the board, the feeling was, yes, the time is right to do this for so many of the reasons that we've already touched on. And it's not, you could say it's an oldie, but a goodie. There is always something to rediscover. Not in all oldies and goodies. But I saw this production, was it Circle in the Square, a number of years ago, where you're almost, the audience is almost part of the show. And I think the darkness, but not the caricature darkness, was very much evident. I think that it's a show about good people who do bad things and bad people who do good things, which I think speaks very much to any time in history, but in particular the times we're in now. One of these kind of discoveries you make after a show opens, as I sit in the audience and have watched it amongst an audience, a moment that has jumped out to me is one of Ellen's, actually, towards the end, where Ellen is taking, as Aunt Eller is taking strong steps to protect her own and to protect her community at the cost of sweeping a murder kind of under the rug. And to sit amongst an audience and hear such an interesting split between people who give her a round of applause for woman empowerment and taking charge of the men, and this is how it's going to be, but also a corner of the audience that is in eerie silence because they are watching I think we can spoil Oklahoma at this point, but
but Judd's body is still on stage, and that is what we are dismissing. We are dismissing those who are left out of the American story. So to even feel both of those things happening amongst an audience at the same time has been really gratifying, especially as we worked so hard to paint in those shades of gray and to not tip the hand and to not indicate to the audience, this is the good guy, this is the bad guy, but to leave people room to respond how they want to respond. And if you just paint these characters as fully realized human beings, hopefully that'll be the outcome.
I mean, there's good and there's bad in everybody. And I'm so glad you brought that up because Ellen, I wanted to bring you in and ask you about that. That's that's a very big choice.
Yeah,
for the character of Aunt Eller to make.
We talk about this a lot backstage, especially with Aaron, who plays the marshal, that here they are, everyone just sang this grand song about we're going to become this state, we're going to be part of this union, and yay. But it comes at sacrifices, and part of that is abiding by the laws of the country. And the second they are tested on that, of like, this person has committed a murder, he needs to be tried in a courtroom, they go, nope, that's not what we're doing. No, we're gonna have our happy ending. Yay, we're happy. And for me, I think that's a beautiful part as Aunt Eller that Ellen judges her in that moment of, she's fighting so hard for the life that she wants and the life she knows. But that's not the progression that, they should be going in necessarily. And I'm so glad you brought that up, Chuck, because it's been so fascinating to hear some people hooping and hollering in the audience, because for me, that's not a great moment for Aunt Eller, but there's people who take her side. And I think it's just really fascinating to see how it's affected people differently.
Yeah. Slice of then and now. And I'm wondering for you, Ellen, and, Ashley, we should point out is just the heart and soul of the kids program at Park Playhouse, and developing these young performers into being the pros that they are and having respect for the art that they do and the art of others. So I'm wondering your role here, and Ellen as an established actor who also teaches, give us a little backstage of the dynamic of working with the young folks in this show.
Yeah, we did a count on our way here, doing that like half the cast is former students of the program, which is wild and so exciting. I like get emotional when I talk about it, so I'm gonna try not to do that. But just seeing these students, who some of them we have known since they were 8 or 9, and are now these like wonderful young adults, and it's a really exciting testament to, I think, the work Chuck does with them when they're teenagers, and what we try to instill in Playhouse Stage Academy with the sense of curiosity and love of the art form, and just to continue being inspired your whole life, to try to find that constant sense of inspiration, and they want to come home when they're in college and do shows with us, and they want to graduate from college and be out in the professional world and still want to come back and do shows with us. It's just really, really exciting and gratifying, and we're super proud of them, and people like Alexis Papaleo, who is the choreographer, and Jake Goodman, who is the assistant music director, who were students and are now on the creative team, and just seeing their work flourish has been unbelievable.
Yeah, it was such a this is your life moment working on this. I think that working in the nonprofit arts in upstate New York, you have to be very future and forward focused. It's very much a nose to the grindstone, on to the next thing. So it affords you very little time to look back and kind of take stock of the work that you have done, particularly with the young artists that we do in the classes and in their shows. And to now see the young artists, and more importantly, the young, fully realized people that they have become, was really astounding, and a really nice moment to create and build something new with them, while also for me personally kind of looking back and being super proud of each and every one of them.
And I
Do
was
you
going to
think
ask
this,
about
go
your.
ahead, Ellen. Yeah,
Oh
sorry.
yeah, I was going to talk about the transition too from was it 2022 that you did the student production of Oklahoma during COVID, and JJ Rosano as Curly and Emma Cornish as Ado Annie are actually reprising their roles. And I know that JJ was saying that he wanted his performance to be unrecognizable because he has just grown so much as a human being and has experienced so much more that he understands his character on a deeper level. So, how has it been for the two of you to re-examine this play with some of the same people and a lot of your former students?
Yeah, sure. Well, with JJ in particular, it's the depth of his work and the depth of his artistry and the depth of his thinking about his craft has grown so much over the years. The bones of who JJ is are certainly still there. One of the things that JJ was so good at when he was a younger person playing this role in our youth program was that walking that line between charming and there's something a little dark and a little self-serving underneath. And so he always had that. But just his dedication to his craft, his commitment to excellence, and again, the depth of his thinking about Curly and about who Curly is was kind of miraculous to discover in real time as we went through the rehearsal process together. I'm amazingly proud of that guy, amazingly proud of him and the work that he's doing in this show.
It's fun to see how there is so much more nuance in this interpretation. He was excellent the first time around, but he's almost tapping into, in particular, like in the end of the show, this turning back into a scared little boy and playing these different levels that are astounding, especially considering he has done the role before. Because I think it's hard to reapproach something you've done before. I'm doing it right now with choreographing The Little Mermaid, and it is very interesting to see how you grow over a period of time, even though it doesn't seem like you have. And so, yeah, he's astounding. Emma Cornish's comedic timing in the past few years is like, she was funny. She's always been funny, but she just will have choices galore. And it's been so fun to watch her in a rehearsal space just play.
You cast this very young.
I'm sorry?
You cast this very young.
I would argue that we cast it age appropriate. I think that this is the age these people would have been at that time. Even looking at you see so many productions where Aunt Eller, for instance, is ancient, and theaters are trotting out their old warhorse chestnut to do it. And so there's even something a little more historically accurate about where Ellen falls in this too. So I think that my hope was that by casting it younger, it would get the vitality that I think the story wants and reflect the vitality of that period in history. They are people caught in the electricity that happens between the Old West and the modern industrialization of America. And there's a real tectonic shift, and what happens is these people kind of get pressured and ground up in between that shift. So the casting it young was a deliberate choice because I think it suits a historically accurate picture of where these people would have actually been in their life at this age. They didn't have.
But I told somebody who didn't get cast. She's like, I go,
This is funny because every time I tell someone I'm in Oklahoma, they're like, "Oh, who are you playing?" I say, Aunt Eller, and they just look at me so weird. And they're like, well, "Are you wearing a wig?" I'm like, well, "No," but it makes sense. Like a 40-year-old Aunt Eller is accurate to that time. Yeah, so it's been
Ellen, do
interesting.
you find yourself in a mentor role at all with the cast?
It's interesting. This one, not as much as the other Playhouse stage shows that I've done, where, for example, Spring Awakening, which was definitely, teenagers. But this group, even though they have a lot of them have come through the training program, they are just such professionals. And it's really nice to be interacting with them at a professional level, that it feels very equal on this one, whereas in other shows, it has kind of felt like a mentorship a little bit. Yeah.
Part of the beauty, if someone hasn't been down to the park, I'm really going to encourage you to do it. And part of the beauty, because it's free theater, make a donation, make a donation. Anyway, buy a seat, buy a seat. But because of that, the exposure to theater that folks who would never have the opportunity, and they get it. They'll come through, and I mean, I've seen it, I've been there, I've done it. They'll come through for rehearsals night after night. And it may start with being a little, and then the magic of theater takes over.
Yeah, I watched that happen even, I think it was our last tech rehearsal. We had something that felt akin to an audience that night for our last tech. Just people wandering through and taking the time to sit down and, oh, what's this? And I'm turning around at the end of the show and they're still there. And they just sat in silence and took it all in. And it's a special place to see a show. I think especially with the work that Betty Pitt and David Hagai, our scenic designer and lighting designer, did. As you're watching the sunset over the park, and it just kind of ties directly into the lighting and the scenic work that they've done to kind of create this frontier for us, is magical. And I think it's a beautiful thing to watch people respond to that, even if they're just out for their evening walk and then end up watching the show.
I have the reason also I ask is this is a challenging time for the arts. I'll leave that. So I'd like to address the importance of bringing theater to a wider community, making theater accessible for the betterment of the community.
Yeah. I think that this is getting a little existential, but I think
It's okay.
Yeah, I think storytelling is fundamentally what makes us human. Storytelling is as old as time, from cave paintings, Greek theater, up to film and cinema. And to come together and experience a story, to have the privilege that we have to tell stories is one of the last remaining ways, I think, that can connect us to each other, from all different walks of life, from all different points of view. Like I was saying about that Aunt Eller moment, seeing people respond differently, but still experiencing it together. I think not to sound like the old man that I am, but I think we've lost some of that in the social media age and the TikTok age and the streaming age. I know I go out far less after the pandemic than even we used to. And so to create something to be shared together in real time is a beautiful thing. And I think one of the last shreds of hope maybe that we can hold on to, that we'll be able to kind of turn this ship around.
And Ellen, you got little kids.
Yeah. One of which is coming to the show tomorrow night.
Yay!
The older of the littles?
Yes, the older, yeah. The little one, oh my goodness, at the park, she would just be everywhere.
So, in a way, you begin to solidify their future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so important. I mean, unfortunately, as we see, arts funding is the first thing to go always, and it's getting harder and harder to give them that exposure. So yeah, it's a, I wouldn't say a burden, but it's a responsibility, I think, of parents to find those opportunities, because they are getting cut in so many educational structures.
What's the challenge of choreographing a cast this size on an outdoor stage, Ashley?
I think what was interesting about this one in particular is that the stage is actually, square footage wise, a lot smaller than past years. So I know in my, oh my gosh, like 15-year history doing shows in the park, that we've had ensembles that are 10 to 12 people, and we've had ones that are like 6 people. And so filling the space and creating pictures with the bodies is always, I think, where my focus is all of the time. But it has been really fun to kind of, we keep referring to this set as a bit of a diorama. And it has been really, really fun to create these stage pictures with a lot of depth and not a lot of width in this little diorama. And I think it's beautiful, in my personal opinion. But no, it's fun. I mean, there's also a roof now. So, you know, I think a lot of my brain space as a choreographer in the past has been being careful that whatever I'm doing can be done if it's a little bit wet, or can be modified if it's a little bit wet. That floor in the park has changed from just wood to textured painted wood to carpet to, I feel like we've done it all. And so you kind of always have to have those things in the back of your mind, just for, frankly, like the safety and danceability of this material that you're doing. But I find those challenges to be like fun and exciting, and they kind of force you to think a certain way or create a certain way. And I think what Alexis did in particular with this piece, in like the numbers like Farmer and the Cowman and Kansas City, is create this sense of community. So everything is a building of this community together, and watching these people connect with one another, and that's what's driving the movement, as opposed to just like dancing for the sake of dancing, which I'm not so into in the first place. And so I think it's just it's really come together beautifully. So,
which is interesting, because it's considered, the Oklahoma is considered the first modern musical, because it connected dance and music and plot and characters all together. So do you find the material helps lend to that kind of seamless?
I think, yeah, maybe. I don't know that I've ever actually, I mean, I know that fact, and I know Agnes DeMille's work on it, but I hadn't actually thought of it as that being what is kind of helping move the plot along, and it really does. We've also cut a number of things. You may be shocked to find out, spoiler, that there is no dream ballet in our version of the show. But really, that's just a 15-minute rehash of the first act. They had to get a little bang for their buck in the 1940s. Yeah, it's just exciting to have this movement that is motivated from inside these characters, as opposed to dance that's put outside in.
Yeah, it was important that everything felt organic to me, from the character work to the set to the lights to the costumes to the dance. Everything wanted to feel from the earth.
Yeah.
And so no grand ballets or anything like that. The movement is very directly tied to the action and the story that we're all telling together.
I never understood the dream ballet anyway. Like, really? It came out of nowhere, but
it's just a last week on. They're giving you a recap.
Yeah. Ellen, and for you guys, Mother Nature didn't let you open when you were supposed to. Talk to us a little bit about being all dressed up and nowhere to go.
I think that I found myself, I was just laying down on the stage at some point, as everyone was kind of being like, okay, we're going now. And I just laid there, because you get so ginned up and that adrenaline is going, and you're so excited to take this thing that you have all worked so long and so hard to build together, and now it's finally the time to birth it and to put it out into the world, and then you're just the airplane circling the airport for another 24 hours. So yeah, but I've been working at Park Playhouse a long time. I have seen my share of rainouts, so it didn't keep us down long.
And then the heat.
Mm-hmm.
As a performer, Ellen, and it's not like you're out there in bathing suits. I mean, you're wearing a lot of clothing. A number of years ago, when we did Kiss Me Kate, by the middle of the run, I'm convinced the costumes were walking themselves into the corner.
Yeah, and I joke that I'm the last one out because I'm just like literally peeling the costume off because it's, got like the undershorts and then the I've got a camisole and the corset and then the shirt and the jacket and the hat and the petticoat and then the skirt. It's just so many layers, which is great. It's an amazing costume. I love it to death. But it's like when you're all sweating and it's just literally glued to you, it just takes a while to kind of get it off. And
Good thing there's no costume change.
yeah, well, I do have a gadget, but I have all intermission to do it, so it's all
But
good.
it is always funny to see there are the years like a cabaret or a head over heels that like as the dancers we were in like tiny little slips, and then there are the years like ragtime or Oklahoma that you're in 15 layers of petticoats, and we just try to make it as comfy as possible. But you remember from ragtime, Benita, it gets a little toasty up there.
Well, my favorite
Yeah.
thing is that the entire ensemble of women just have their skirts hiked up backstage because it's just with the petticoat, it's so hot that everyone's just pulling their shirt, and most of them have bloomers, so it's just a whole bunch of people walking around showing off their bloomers.
Find me the fan. Find me the fan.
Yeah,
Yes.
lots of fans and huge water bottles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got
Yep.
5 minutes. Less. Ellen,
Oh my goodness.
what do you want to do?
We can do a really fast.
Okay.
Yeah, we normally do a close-up segment at the end, just a little more personal questions about you guys. So,
Cool.
Chuck and Ashley, are you ready for your close-up?
Ask me anything.
Let's do it.
Awesome. So we'll go Chuck first, and Ashley, maybe just for sake of speed. What was the first moment you knew you wanted to do theater?
My mother took me probably too young to see Pippin with Ben Vereen at Proctor's sometime in the 80s. And the second those white hands came out of the darkness and Ben Vereen started singing that was it for me.
Oh, mine is like the Cats VHS tape. That was a big one. Les Mis on tour at Hershey Theater was huge for me as a kid. And I very specifically remember the 8th grade production of Godspell at my elementary school when I was in kindergarten. That like looms very large.
Wow. What's the play that's had the biggest impact on you, whether it's something you worked on or just saw or experienced and loved?
Honestly, I think Spring Awakening. As far as one that I've worked on, just because the challenge, and delicacy that had to be in the room to execute that show with age-appropriate teenagers in age-appropriate roles, was so gratifying to see them rise in their artistry and in their maturity to tackle something like that and to be a part of that. Yeah, meant a lot.
I've probably given a different answer to this in the past, but I'm going to go today because I'm feeling sentimental with Annie Get Your Gun, because that was the first production I did with Playhouse Stage Company, formerly Park Playhouse, and I was fresh out of college and was so happy to be the dance captain working with my former mentor who was the choreographer, and it obviously was a life-changing experience for a million of reasons.
What's a bucket list show to work on?
Gonna be the same.
Yeah, Pippin. Not to connect back to my first answer, but and we were in the middle of it with the older teen students, and COVID wiped it out. So I'm going to take another swing at that one someday soon.
Yeah, it was a favorite of mine too, because my brother played Theo when he was little, and so when I wasn't in ballet class, I would like go over and pick him up from rehearsal, and sitting there watching their production of Pippin was like so magical, and I was like, I want to do theater, I don't want to be in ballet anymore. So that was a fun experience, and I think it's one that we both hold very dear.
Well, it's not on the list for next season, so let me just,
No,
if anybody's wondering, there's other stuff on the list. We're not going to share that yet, but we
you
may
can't get rid of me until I get to do it, Benita.
Listen, I want to play Granny. I
Yeah.
can sing that role, but see, these are the things you think about as a performer.
Of course.
Yeah.
Get it on the list, Benita.
Remember transparency and ethics. But anyway, Ashley Simon Kirchner, Chuck Kraus, Ellen and I, listen, do yourself a favor. Go to the park. Go see Oklahoma. Honest and true, not just because. It's really fun. The talent's great. It's a lovely night out. Guys, thanks so much for spending time with us. Ashley, you got your work cut out for you now. You've got Little Mermaid, and Ellen, oh my goodness, less than a minute. Goodbye.
Thank you all for having us so much. Thank you.
Oklahoma runs the whole month of July at the park, and then we move over to Guilderland in the first weekend of August. So Tuesdays through Sundays, no excuse you can't see it. Thanks so much, everybody. I'm Ellen Cribbs.
I'm Benita Zahn. Be well. Take care, guys.
Thank you so much for listening to the Everything Theater podcast. Special thanks goes out to Alice Grinling for our photography and Justin Friello for composing our amazing theme song. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to share your thoughts or what's going on in your theater community, you can reach out to us on social media or through our email at everythingtheaterpodcast@gmail.com. Till next time, it's everything, everything, everything.